Hello everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven, and this is the Storytime channel. We've got some great stories, so let's jump into our first one of the day by TokyoDiamond. Sir, I live here. Please go away. First off, I am so glad I finally found something to tell all my weird, strange, and totally crazy stories on. I love it here. Okay, so on to the story. I live in a mobile home on property that has been passed down for generations. It belonged to my great-grandma, my grandma, and now my mama. So if something was to happen to my mama, the land would go to my brother and I. Since he already has a house with one of my favorite sis-in-laws, the land and house would belong to me. So me and my parents were talking one day, and I mentioned how I was craving some peaches. I usually get them in the jar filled with sweet juice. Yum. And mama said that's something she wanted to get for a while. Some peach trees. So I got all excited and went to a co-op. If you don't know what a co-op is, it's a place where you can get gardening tools, seeds, trees, plants, fishing gear, etc. It's like a mall for us country folks. I get to the co-op and find the peach trees, call mama, give her the price, and told her there was some plum trees available as well. So I get one plum tree and one peach tree. I get the plant food and some bricks and other stuff to decorate around it. I get home and my dad asked if I could plant them because he had to go take a family friend to therapy. Fine enough, I grew up being a tomboy, so I know what I'm doing. I come out the house in my messy clothes, my gloves, and whatever else I need. Now, I already had the stuff laid out in the yard, knew where I was planting them and all, but something in my gut and spirit was throwing me off. You ever get the feeling you were being watched? Yeah, I had that feeling. I look up and it's a white car driving by mighty slow. Okay, so what's not about to happen is my big butt getting kidnapped in broad daylight. No ma'am, no ham, no turkey, no bacon. Not today. For a female, I know how to take care of myself. I go in the house and get my knife that I keep for protection and stick it in my pocket. I should note that there is 2 entrances in our yard that is connected. So it's like you come in one entrance and can go out the other. I come back outside and this same car came back and pulled into our yard and went out the other way. Okay, now I'm creeped out. So I grab my phone and put 911 on speed dial. I've lived in this neighborhood my whole life, but I'm a homebody. I don't like going out that much. So after I put the phone on speed dial, I put it right next to me on a small table and get started digging my holes for our trees. Soon as I'm done digging, I grab the plant food and the trees, fix them up real nice and straight and put the dirt back over. Now it's time for me to decorate, my favorite part. I grab my bricks and everything else, and not even 5 minutes of me starting, the same darn car is driving by. But this time it came into the second entrance and pulled all the way into the yard and stopped. Some tall, lanky guy steps out and says,
"How much?"
Huh?
How much you charge to do this? I like the work you did. I'm looking for someone to do a job like this.
So I'm looking at him all confused and I say, "I'm sorry, sir, but I don't do this for work. I'm just planting in my yard." He gives me a side eye and says,
"How do you not do this for work? Clearly the owner of this house paid you to do it. Just give me an estimate. A man like you can do the work."
Okay, I know I'm a darn tomboy, but how in the heck do you mistake a female with big assets, a fat asset, and thick thighs for a man? So I look at him all mad and say, 1, I am not a darn man. 2, I don't do this for work. 3, this is my house and you are trespassing. Did you not see the no trespassing sign on the tree by the entrance? Big and black sign with big capital red letters. So now he got this
"I don't want to hear no excuse"
attitude and says,
"Look man, I just want a darn estimate. It's not that hard to do. Just come up with a price to do the yard work."
Yep, right about now, I'm pissed to the highest level of pistivity. I remembered I had my phone already on speed dial, so I told him to either leave willingly or the police will be called. Whole time, I already pressed dial. This fool really stood there for a second, completely stepped out of the car and stood next to it and said, "No." Said somebody was gonna hear about how I, who to him is still a man, won't give him service. Then asked the stupid question, where is my van or truck with our company name? Yep, my level of festivity is going higher. I'm giving the 911 operator my address, and when he said that, I screamed out, "Get your butt off my property. I told you Barilla-looking butt that this was my house and that I wasn't a man, but you about to get your saggy body built like a pickle butt beat like I am a darn man if you don't leave." Mind you, I have my other hand in my pocket with my finger on the button of my knife if he tries something. The whole time, he's still standing there arguing with me. A few minutes go by and the police show up, and it just so happens to be a cop I've known since I was a kid. He was my big brother's chief when my brother was a policeman. Knew my mama and my daddy. Boy, was I happy to see him. Soon as he stepped out and asked what happened, I couldn't get a word out before this maniac went ape poop crazy about how I, an employee to a gardening company, cursed at him, true, threatened him, also true, and assaulted him. Whoa now, false. Chief looked at me and at the house and back at me and said, "Baby girl, is that you?" I looked at him, took off my garden hat, showed my high afro puff, put my glasses on and said, "Yup, it's me, Chief." Dude's jaw dropped, then looked me up and down. Chief said, "This is a female, sir. She lives here in this house. I know her and her family very well. She doesn't work for a garden company. She and her parents just like to garden in their yard. You have been warned to leave this property because it is private property and you refused, so now I have to arrest you. You better be glad she didn't assault you like you claim she did, because for one, with this being their property, they have a right to defend themselves on this property if you're still on it. And two, this girl grew up watching wrestling and wrestled with my boys. She'd kick your butt. Okay, hands behind your back. I'll call a tow company to come pick up your car." Meanwhile, I'm just standing there, big butt grin on my face. When the chief was leaving, my dad pulled up and asked what happened. I told him the whole story and he pressed charges because he was on our property. Oh, and now we have fresh peaches and plums that are so sweet, they've given me sugar bumps. Little tiny bumps that come up from eating something extremely sweet and are very, very itchy. Reading this story makes me realize, you have to be really prepared for any situation. I recognize that being female is a very important part of the story, but beyond that, if you're outside and the neighborhood isn't exactly the most incredibly guaranteeably safest area, it's always good to have some kind of mental plan where if something does go a little awry, you can have some kind of situation to at least try and give yourself a good chance. That said, if a similar situation were to happen to you, say today, would you be in a situation where you feel you are prepared for such a thing? Basically, ways to either defend yourself or plans where you could call 911 very quickly. Let me know yes or no in the comments down below. Our next story is by BumbleTeddy. The husband normally shops. There isn't a fight or anything rude that happens in the story, so I'm sorry if that's what you're wanting. I went shopping to get groceries while my parents were at work. I was wearing a similar colored top to the store uniform, but I also had ripped jeans on. I went to a popular store in the UK. While in the tin aisle, a lovely lady walked up to me and we had the following encounter. "Excuse me, dear, could you tell me where the cooking oils are?" "I think there are 3 aisles that way." I pointed in the direction but wasn't completely sure. "Thank you." She went off that way and I continued shopping. I found her again while she was looking at bread. She seemed to have found the cooking oil and was struggling with bread choices. "Hello again, I found the oil." She gave me a smile at this, "But I had to get another employee, wasn't where you said it was." "Ah, sorry, I don't work here. Was getting food for at home." The lovely lady looked a bit shocked and apologized before explaining, "Normally I'm working and my husband does the shopping. But with everything, I've been furloughed and he's taking extra shifts." After that, we both just kinda smiled and went on our own way. She was still in the store when I left, talking to an actual employee. I hope she found everything she needed. The top comment of this Reddit post by Urban Escape 13 is absolutely the most perfect summarization of the story. They said, this is the difference between a British I don't work here story and an American one. As you can see, it's a lot more polite and a lot more friendly and way less confrontation. And our final story of the day is written by Staring at the Sun featuring SZA, accidentally impersonated a police officer. So a while back I was coming home from a Halloween party. I'd gone in a police officer costume for no reason other than they let me keep the costume when I'd played a police officer in a safety video at work. So I didn't have to spend any money to go to the party. Plus, it was very high quality, convincing, and realistic. A network TV show had donated some old costumes since we do a lot of charity work with kids. I'd had a few too many, and by the time I'd left the party, I couldn't really tell you what I was dressed as, or where I was coming from, or where I was headed. I was just on autopilot stumbling back to the bus stop to home. As I was making my way, someone seemed like they were flagging me down. They were yelling, "Hurry, hurry, there's a couple fighting and I think she's about to stab them. You have to come quick." Still on autopilot, I ambled over in their direction. Not in any big rush, the girl was really floored and kept yelling at me. And I'll be a darned. There was a fight going on. I wanted to say to the person who'd flagged me down, "How considerate of you to clue me into this awesome fight so I can watch." But I wasn't feeling articulate enough, so I just kind of gave a thumbs up and watched the two people screaming at each other. It was a young man who looked as though he had just been woken up and come down from his apartment, and a woman who was dressed for the clubs but looked a mess. They were screaming at each other, and she kept shoving him and making threats like, "It was always $50. Are you really gonna let me have to freak you up over $50? Well, the guy just kept saying, "I'm not gonna argue with you, I'm not." It seemed like people were looking at me, but I didn't have the slightest idea why. Finally, the person who flagged me down said, "Well, are you going to do something?" I was baffled and a bit flattered, but also confused. I was trying to make sense of the situation. Was I somehow involved in this altercation? Did I know these people? Did I cause this fight? But it was clear everyone expected something of me, so I decided the best course was to fake it until I made it. I charged over with fake authority, trying to place the face of either person in the argument. Can't remember exactly what I said, but I'm told it was along the lines of, hey guys, chill. What's the matter? What's happening? Let's just talk." As I got closer, I saw the woman was holding her car key between her fingers and jabbing it out like she planned to stab the man with it. I just giggled and said, "Okay, first of all, that won't work. Haven't you seen World Star? Man, how are you letting her back you up with a car key? Come on, she couldn't open a can with those." I don't know the first thing about physical altercations. Sober me wouldn't be the slightest bit emboldened by street fighting videos I watch at 3 a.m., but apparently drunk me felt qualified to proffer advice. There was a moment of stunned silence as the bystanders wondered how I could be so ineffective, and the arguing people wondered whether or not I was going to arrest them. When it became clear I was as clueless as they are, the arguing continued. Someone in the crowd said, "What? Did you hear that?" And someone else suggested, "We should call some other police, like 911. I was thinking, what? Yeah, of course. I can't believe no one's called the police yet. This is really getting out of hand. Good idea. Maybe I should call." But I got distracted by the guy going, "I paid what you're owed and you can't go changing the price." And the girl was shrieking, "Don't BS me, Brian," as she got closer and closer to him and he had to dodge her crazy key hands. So I'm just slack-jawed watching them again along with everyone else when someone finally says, "Stop him, she's going to hurt him," while looking directly at me. I wasn't sure why everyone seemed to want me to stop them, thinking to myself, or one of you guys could do something. You were here before me. But I figured I must be involved somehow and not understand why, because everyone kept addressing me directly. Maybe I owed someone money. Maybe I'd chatted with one of them at the party. In any case, I was like, I've got to hang out with these people more often. They've got a lot more trust and respect for me than my other friends. I was feeling good from all this attention and everyone expecting me to be able to handle things. Finally, I mustered up the most authoritative voice I could and yelled,
"Cut it out with the key. I told you already, that will not work."
I had everyone quiet again, so that was a step forward.
"Now, what exactly is the problem going on here?" I asked.
They started to explain, but they were both talking at once, and nothing they said gave me any better understanding as to how I was involved. So finally, I was just like,
"How do you two know each other?"
And the guy said,
"We're friends. We're good friends. She's just a little overreacting right now."
In hindsight, the guy probably had some drugs on him or some other reason to want the cops, or in my case, people dressed as cops, to go away. Because he seemed terrified even as he was saying it was all fine. As best as I could piece together, stopping the fight would make everyone happy. So I thought back to how my mom would break up an argument and implored them, "Come on, guys, friends shouldn't be arguing this way. Let's go. Whatever this is, we're gonna set it aside, we're gonna sleep on it. Until then, I want you to hug it out, come on." And I started ushering them into one another. I guess the girl didn't really want to deal with the people dressed as cops either, because though she begrudgingly put her keys down, she didn't go in for a hug. So rowdy drunk me was like,
"Come on, hug. Anything could happen. Life is short. You could be dead tomorrow."
This poor girl thought the police were threatening to kill her if she didn't comply with an order to hug it out. They hugged and then I was like, "All right, where are you guys from?" And the guy was like,
"I'm staying here at this building here."
And I was like, "Okay, then go home. You two need to cool off. And tomorrow maybe you'll have forgotten about this whole thing. You too, go somewhere else," I said to the girl, vaguely gesturing away from the building. She started to say something about her $50, but I was tired and ready to go home, so I was like, "Now, you can pick this up again tomorrow. You too, man, go inside, get some sleep. It's late." You could hear the crowd whispering in confused awe as I watched the girl leave and watched the guy go inside, just yelling over them if they tried to start up again until they'd both cleared out, and then stumbling off myself. Then I went home, showered, passed out, and barely remembered any of it the next day. Just vaguely remembered talking to some people arguing on the way home. About a week later, I went to this friend's house again, and someone was there who had apparently been in the crowd. They were like, "Oh my goodness, you're the cop who broke up that fight in front of my building. Between you and me, I promise I'll keep it on the down low, but were you drunk on the job? You seem trashed. Were you off duty or?" I told her I had no idea what she was talking about. The closest I'd ever been to a street fight was watching World Star. She was like, "Yeah, you talked about watching World Star. So did you make them hug just to mess with them, or is that like an actual thing they really teach police to do to de-escalate things?" That got my attention because what were the odds of someone who looked like me being in this area talking about World Star? And I did remember the people I talked to hugging. So I asked her to elaborate, and as she recounted the events and the whole thing started coming back to me, I was like, "Hey, yeah, that was me," and laughed. Focused more on the breaking up a fight part and not really registering the cop part. So my confused buddy was like, don't pull her leg like that, come on. They wouldn't let you be a cop on your best day." And I had to think about that one for a second, because he was absolutely right. Finally, I put the pieces together and sheepishly explained the mix-up. We all had a good laugh over it, and I learned to never drink while dressed as someone it's illegal to impersonate, even accidentally, because you never know what could happen. Alright man, come on, everybody just hug it out. I feel like I would have to check if I was stroking out if I saw a police officer walk up all drunk and end up breaking up a street fight but making them hug it out in front of everybody. The moral of the story here is please be moderate when you're drinking. At least if you're in a police costume, that's for darn sure. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like and subscribe and turn notifications on if you haven't. All of those things help the channel out so incredibly much. So no matter what you did, whether it was commenting, liking, subscribing, thank you all so very much for supporting me right here on the Storytime channel. That said, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all next time right here.